Within the social economy, despite the fact that businesses are mission focused, it's not a one size does not fit all kind of situation. Two of Jamaica's young social entrepreneurs will share their social enterprise business models. We've got Jovan Evans, the brilliance behind Pump and Spray, and Scheed Cole leading the charge with the 360 Recycle team. 360 Recycle turns waste from foam, plastic bottles, and styrofoam, etc., into new, efficient home products. We will start with Scheed, who will present his model, and then we'll hear from Jovan, and then Doris will join us as we talk about the business of making real change. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Scheed Cole.
Hello, good day. It's a pleasure to be asked to present. And a lot of wonderful presenters have come before me. And there is some sort of a string that is between each of them. And I guess it will follow through even to the other presenter and so forth. But like many of us, we have become social entrepreneurs because we saw problems that we felt personally that we wanted to fix. This is Jamaica. I mean, this is what we showcase internationally that Jamaica is. And this is what we love. And I'm very patriotic to my country. And this was kind of like my life as well before age 4. Beautiful, wonderful. My father was a pastor, my mother an evangelist. And, I grew up on the church benches. And my life was just happy-go-lucky. That was my type of life. You remember these nice days when food was baked by grandma and you had the best to eat because it was made with love. This was the lifestyle of many of us that we experience here in Jamaica. But over time, they wanted to package grandma's nice produce. And we have persons that said Auntie Jima's cake is the best, so they gift wrapped it and they put it in packages and they put her juices into bottles. And over time, we have made big business of grandma's products, right? But this is the result over time. We don't calculate it, we don't look at it really, but after a while, all of this packaging, all of this wonderful products that we have been consuming, we didn't think about the byproduct. What is it that's going to happen to these after? And this was kind of like my life. After the wonders of age 4, my parents got divorced. And I was trapped between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. My father, he went rogue. He was no longer a pastor, and he was up and about, becoming businessman, and he was involved with a lot of stuff that caused us to be on the run constantly. So at the drop of a hat, I would get a knock on my window and says, "Go call your mother, go call your stepmother." And he said, "Yes, Daddy," and I get up at 11 o'clock and I call her, and immediately we started to move. So I never got the chance to really stay into school for a very long time. I spent 3 months here, 3 months there, and I was out of the place and onto a new community. So I got to travel Jamaica, really. The last place that I actually ended up was in the inner city. I ended up in a place called Waterhouse. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that, or Olympic Way. And this was probably the worst point of my life, really. Because of my father's business practices, I was subjected to very uncomfortable experiences. For instance, I was awoken in the morning with M16s in my face. And they said, "Where's your daddy, boy? Where's your daddy? You're going to come just like him." In my mind, you're dazed, you're still coming out of sleep, and you're seeing that happen to you. Okay, I didn't want to be like my daddy, seriously, never the least. Fortunately, my father's activities caused him to run away overseas. And he was involved in a lot of things. He was actually in the export business. And he also liked to help people out by sending them overseas, outside of the normal means. He was an artist. I figure I got some of his creativity. But I was always creating things. So, when I really started school, they said I was a slow learner. I had dyslexia and attention deficit disorder and all of that. But they always wondered, why is it that, I was always answering the questions in class and always the one to understand complex problems, but yet still when it came on to exam time, I wasn't passing the exams. I think it was due to the fact that at the exams, I wasn't really paying attention. I was really shading in to get the patterns on the answer sheet, rather. So here we have a problem like my life at that time, okay? And you may say, boy, this problem can never change, right? It's a big problem. It's bigger than us. Jamaica has gone down to the dogs. I've had persons who have traveled to Jamaica for many times bemoan the fact, cry over the fact that Jamaica has gone down to nowhere because of this garbage problem. And it's a culture that we buy these wonderful things that Auntie Mima made and packaged, and instead of putting them in the rightful places and having them come back into the stream, we just throw them indiscriminately on the ground or in the gullies or anywhere else we can find, as long as we don't have them in our hands. Okay? And therefore, convenience in itself may be the greatest disease that have come to our country and anywhere else over the world. Cleanup efforts. We have been trying to clean up, okay? But cleanup in itself is not recycling. Because we have the mountain of a problem is that we collect from these places and then we don't know where to put them when we have collected them. And therefore, it just delays the process or the path to the landfills anyway, which, or else we say we're going to ship them overseas, but yes, we don't know really what happens to these materials. I say let us change from the concept of this, because at the end of the day, it's just going to end up in leaching, destroying our water supply, and become hazardous in many ways. And we've seen the pictures online. We've seen the animals that have ate things and the fact that they die with plastics on the inside. And we all say, whoa, what a shame what's happening. But where are we in our mindsets in regards to this, really? Nature has a different approach, though. Nature is the first social enterprise. And it pays for us to mimic nature. It is called biomimicry, really. It's looking at how nature does things. Whatever falls, whatever is used already, it goes back into the process and it is reused by other organisms and insects, and everybody benefits at the end of the day. Absolutely nothing goes to waste. It's the first zero waste organism and system that we can learn from and practice. So 360 recycling is really built on that premise. I have refused to have a garbage disposal unit in my business place for the garbage truck to collect, because I don't see them as garbage. It is really lazy for us to say the only way to handle these materials is to ban them. No, seriously. The modern age have produced a lot of various materials. And they have their level of convenience, yes. Lightweight, it's easily sterilized, it has convection properties. All of these things are because the modern age has produced them. So therefore, let us intelligently, innovatively find ways of utilizing these materials, as I heard the gentleman spoke about turning it into gas for cooking. Wonderful. That's innovative. I love to hear things like that because that means that we're on the same path to change, because we are becoming like nature is encouraging us to be, a part of nature. Now, we collect these materials: paper, sawdust, cardboard, glass, PET bottles, and styrofoam boxes, and packaging foam, and all of these materials we put together. And from a child, I was always working with recyclables. I just found that out, just looking back into my past. I mean, at age 8, I was using wires, electrical wires, to create motor cars. And I found scraps and motors, and I create remote cars because I was trapped on the inside, because my father kept us there, imprisoned. It's not a nice story. But I saw other children, because I just came to Kingston. So the first time I saw children pushing box truck around the place, I was amazed. I'm like, whoa, that's so innovative. And I was there watching them daily, and all I had to my disposal was wire. So I started to bind the wires together, and I created cars with it. I made wheels from the same material. I found old radios, and I took the motors out, and I saw them with, we couldn't afford the other stuff, go buy Christmas gifts and bring. So I made them. And then the opportunity I got to go outside, I was driving my wire car and turning it and so forth, and crowd gathered. Then after that, I embarked upon making a robot, and I said I'm going to make a laser beam, and I got bulbs and magnifying glass. A lot of that was going on in this crazy child head at that time. Luckily, I also got the opportunity to pass my technical entrance. And I tell you, by that time, I was already left alone because my father, in his kindness, abandoned me in the inner city and said, you know what? I don't want this boy to be traveling with me all around. So he took my stepbrother and sisters and he took them away and he left me there. Just like how we may drink a wonderful drink from a plastic bottle and we just throw it on the street and we say, we don't know what happened to it. And for years, I have no communication with him at all. So how does a child survive in the inner city, age 13, without any former guardians or so forth? You have to innovate. You got to find a way to survive. I said the only way I could get out of my problem is to get an education. And rather than skipping school, I decided to stay in school. So I walked to school, spoke to my guidance counselor, spoke to my teachers. I said, I have nobody. How can you help? I want to stay in school. I want to get an education. And they assisted where they could. I walked around the place, and that was my first recycling effort of picking up plastic bottles. No, sorry, correction, glass bottles. And I carried it to the shop, and they bought it. And then I could buy some banana and butter. You understand me? Some, you guys know about that. You understand me? That's so sweet. Wow. And it helped me many times. Now we have the same problems. Same problems. Same way. I take up the bottles, and I use the same binding wire I was using from a child. And I started to bind them together. Because I did chemistry in school, and I learned about molecules and all of this. And I love science. And I started to find ways of creating like diamond molecules to create the bottles to have their own structural strength. I was always into bridge building and to engineering and architecture and finding how chemicals mix together to create new chemicals. And I was always researching in depth testing of these materials. Sorry from that experience, let me go back. From this experience, I started to create products. Now, this is all made from recycled materials. The same tying of the bottles together. I used to create the framework that became the structural strength for these materials. I've been drawing from a child. I couldn't help myself. I was drawing figures, I was drawing animals. And I really found out I could sculpt in college. And that's where it began. But this is really what the company is built on. I'm an artist. I'm a scientist. I'm an engineer. I'm an architect. I'm everything I want to be if I just go and research about it. Because education is based on need. Okay, so therefore, I needed to know, so I go find out where the information is, and I practiced, and I ensured that I could embark on something like this. Now, it's not only about recycling, it's a mindset, because I want you to think that what you have used is actually just a pre-used material. Just like how you buy a pre-used car. You can also take a plastic bottle who has been pre-used and make something else with it, right? And another owner has it in a different way. But I wanted this social enterprise to be multifaceted. It's not just about recycling. It's about how many persons I can train to do just this. I make flower pots. I love making flower pots because I love nature. I love farming. I've been doing organic farming for a long time, especially when I resigned my job for the first time when my wife was pregnant. I took the first chance of faith to just resign and go do farming and practice my art. And I fused that with sculpting. I fused that with recycling. I see that the need is there. This is also straight recycled materials as well. Now, I do two things. I upcycle and I recycle, and there's a difference between both. Upcycling is using the material as they are. You take the plastic bottle, you don't disintegrate it, you don't break it down, you actually just connect it together and you use it as it is. But I've also come up with another material, and that's really where I'm at right now. The fact that I'm trying to introduce a new material to the world made from pure recycled materials. Now, they have some wonderful properties. Most of the materials that I use, they are insulated materials. For that reason, I'm going into buildings now. I'm going into walls. Because I can use the styrofoam, the paper, the sawdust, all of these materials together, and I create a material that can also be an insulator for your home to cut down the energy cost at the end of the day, therefore cutting down greenhouse gases. I don't know if many of you have seen this sculpture. This is a Bob Marley sculpture that I did and I tested it out on sculptures as well to see how did it stand up over time. It did fairly well. This is the material right now. This is a drywall material. It's not a drywall. It's similar, but it's different. It's not made from gypsum. What I was trying to prove is that I could create a material that has good tensile strength that I could hold out and I can flip it and it has flexibility, as well as its good compression strength. I could cut it up into pieces. I could make additional things with it, just like I would use a sheet of plywood. And over about a year of testing, finally we have embarked on this material here, which we hope will become a staple for many building purposes. That we can say a local material is now available that can rival drywall or plywood or lumber. Okay, that's really the research is taking me, because I want it to be created by locals as well, by the community that I'm a part of. Right now we're at Russell Road, which is Trenchtown area, Maxfield area, and we have about 30 persons working and being trained in this area to learn from it. This is the 360 effect that we're talking about. Community members being trained. This is a house that we're building right here from the plastic bottles. We'll be using the same recycled mix to become the insulator for the home. And then at the end of the day, we'll be using normal rough cast and rendering to finish the home. It's moving up stage by stage here. We have a collective of individuals who's working with us and giving us materials. There's various companies right now that is helping us in this venture, and it is open to everybody else. Right now, the entire company is based on collection, sorting, process, and manufacturing. But guess what? This 360 way that we're talking about is an incomplete circle if we do not have the buyers. We have come up with these materials. We have come up with these products. Why is it that we should stand aside and wait until some other country come in and take this technology? We're waiting individuals like yourself to partner with us to help us to solve these multiplicity of problems. And like myself, that have come from very dark days to see bright days, so too we can carry Jamaica on a whole from this dark, pollutant environment to a wonderful zero waste community. Thank you very much.